The bus pulled into the grounds of Montrose Correctional Facility early one October morning when the Colorado mountains were still shrouded in pre-dawn fog. Terrence Collins stared through the barred window at the gray concrete walls topped with barbed wire and felt his stomach tighten with fear. 32 years of his life had led him to this moment, the beginning of a 5-year prison sentence for embezzling funds from the company where he had worked as chief accountant. The former office worker with glasses and soft features looked completely out of place among the other prisoners on the bus. His thin build and intelligent manner screamed that he didn't belong in this world. Terrence knew it, and judging by the looks of the other passengers, they knew it too. The intake procedure took several hours: fingerprinting, photographing, medical examination, receiving prison uniforms. Terrence mechanically complied with all the requirements, trying not to think about Wendy teaching at Montrose Elementary School just a few miles away, and that her third-grade students would never know that their teacher's husband was now inmate number 47291. Collins! His guard, Tommy Washington, a massive man with faded tattoos on his forearms, called out sharply, "Block C, cell 127, let's move." Terrence gathered his meager belongings, bedding, toiletries, 2 sets of uniforms, and followed the guard down a long corridor. The sounds of the prison hit him like a physical blow. The barking of commands, the clanging of metal bars, the shouts of inmates, the echo of footsteps on the concrete floor. Block C turned out to be a 3-story building with cells located along open galleries. In the center was a common area with plastic tables and benches where groups of inmates played cards, watched TV, or just talked. Terrence felt dozens of eyes on him as they passed by. "Listen carefully, Four Eyes," Washington said, stopping in front of cell 127. "This isn't your accounting office. We have our own rules here. Keep your head down, your mouth shut, and you might live to see the day you get out." The cell was tiny, 3 by 4 meters, with a bunk bed, a small table, a toilet without a seat, and a sink. On the bottom bunk lay a man of about 28, reading a worn book. He looked up when Terrence entered. "Marcus Reed," he said, getting up from the bed. Marcus was the complete opposite of Terrence, broad-shouldered, muscular, with confident movements and a direct gaze from his brown eyes. A small scar above his left eyebrow and a tattoo on his neck suggested that he was no stranger to places like this. "Terrence Collins," Terrence replied, shaking the outstretched hand. Marcus's handshake was firm but not aggressive. "What are you in for?" Marcus asked, returning to his book. "Embezzlement. 5 years. You?" "Aggravated assault. 7 years. Already served 3. Marcus grinned. "Don't worry, I don't bite. Unless, of course, you provoke me." Terrence nodded and began to make the top bunk. His hands were shaking, and he hoped his cellmate wouldn't notice. "First time?" Marcus asked, without looking up from his book. "Yes." "I see. Listen, I have a few tips that will help you survive here." For the next hour, Marcus explained the unwritten rules of prison life. Don't ask unnecessary questions. Don't get involved in other people's business. Find a group for protection, but not too quickly. You need to understand the balance of power first. Don't show weakness, but don't act tough either. That will attract unnecessary attention. Most importantly, Marcus said, finally putting down the book and looking directly at Terrence, every day here is about survival. You don't have any experience with street fighting, I can see that. But you have a good head on your shoulders, and that could be your greatest weapon. When it was time for lunch, Marcus led Terrence to the dining hall. The huge room was filled with long metal tables where inmates of all ages and nationalities sat. Terrence noticed how clearly they were divided into groups, each sticking to their own table, their own territory. "See that tall guy with the beard?" Marcus whispered, nodding toward one of the tables. "That's Iron Jack. He controls the drug trade in the block. The bald guy next to him is his right-hand man, Snake. Better stay away from them." They took their trays of food, tasteless porridge, a piece of bread, an apple, and milk, and sat down at a table in the far corner of the dining hall. "What about the guard who brought me here?" Terrence asked. "Washington? He's a corrupt cop. For $20 he'll get you anything. Cigarettes, candy, even a cell phone if you have money in your account. But be careful with him. He likes to play games, pitting prisoners against each other for fun. After lunch, They returned to their cell. Terrence lay down on his bunk and stared at the ceiling, trying to comprehend his new reality. Through the barred window, he could see the sky and the tops of mountains, reminding him of the world outside the prison walls. "Do you miss home?" Marcus asked. "Yes, I have a wife, Wendy. She's a teacher. We've been together for 8 years. Will she visit you?" "I hope so." Terrence paused. "Do you have anyone?" Marcus smiled. "I had a girlfriend when I was arrested, but she quickly found someone else. I don't blame her. 7 years is a long time." That evening, when the cells were locked for the night, Terrence lay in the dark listening to the sounds of the prison, distant voices, the creaking of metal, the footsteps of guards. Fear still gripped his chest, but for the first time in many months, since his arrest, he didn't feel completely alone. Marcus had been unexpectedly understanding and protective. "Marcus?" he called softly. "Yes? Thank you. For the advice, for everything, thank you. You're welcome. We're neighbors now. We have to look out for each other." There was something warm in Marcus's voice that made Terrence feel strangely excited. He pushed the thought away and closed his eyes, trying to fall asleep on his first night in prison. 3 weeks had passed since Terrence's arrival at the colony, and he was beginning to get used to the harsh rhythms of prison life. Wake up at 6 in the morning, breakfast, work in the laundry, lunch, an hour in the gym or library, dinner, and back to his cell until morning. The monotony was both depressing and calming. At least he knew what to expect. Marcus turned out to be not just a good cellmate, but a real mentor. He taught Terrence how to read people, how to understand nonverbal cues that could signal danger or opportunity. Under his guidance, Terrence began exercising, strengthening his skinny body. "Not so much for fighting," Marcus explained as he watched Terrence do push-ups in their cell. "More for confidence. When you look stronger, you don't have to prove it as much." Terrence noticed that a special bond had formed between them. Marcus wasn't like the other inmates. He read books, discussed the news, and could talk about music and movies. In the evenings, they often talked late into the night, sharing memories of their lives before prison. "I worked for a construction company," Marcus said, lying on his bunk. "I started as a laborer and worked my way up to foreman. Those were good times. In the morning, I went to the construction site, and in the evening, I went to the bar with the guys. It was a simple life." "What happened?" Terrence asked. Marcus paused, staring at the ceiling. "I caught my wife in bed with my best friend. I lost control. I beat him almost to death. If it weren't for the neighbors who called the police." He shrugged. 7 years for attempted murder. It could have been worse. "Do you regret it? That I didn't kill him, sometimes? That I ruined my life because of stupid jealousy? Every day?" Terrence heard the pain in Marcus's voice and felt a strange desire to comfort him. It was unusual. He was usually the one who needed support, not the one giving it. "What about you?" Marcus asked. "How did you end up here?" Terrence sighed. "The company I worked for was going through tough times. The owner asked me to adjust the numbers for the tax authorities. At first it was small amounts, then more and more. When the audit started, I was the one who got caught. They offered me a deal, admit guilt in exchange for a reduced sentence. And you agreed? I had no choice. Wendy didn't know anything about what was going on. If it had gone to trial, everything would have come out. She would have lost her job, her reputation. I couldn't let that happen." Marcus turned on his side, looking at Terrence through the darkness. "You sacrificed yourself for her. She deserves it. Wendy is perfect. Kind, honest, loyal. I don't deserve her." "Maybe you deserve more than you think," Marcus said quietly. Something in his voice made Terrence feel a strange warmth in his chest. He didn't answer, but he couldn't sleep that night. In the 4th week, the first serious test of their friendship came. Terrence was working in the laundry room, sorting dirty laundry, when Snake, Iron Jack's right-hand man, approached him. He was a short, wiry man with cold eyes and gold teeth. "4 eyes," he said, blocking Terrence's way to the exit. "I hear you're good with numbers." "I just work here," Terrence replied cautiously, remembering Marcus's advice on how to deal with dangerous people. "Don't be modest. Accountant, huh? We need someone to help with financial matters. The percentage is good." Terrence realized that they were trying to get him involved in the prison business, most likely drug trafficking or other illegal activities. Refusal could lead to problems, but agreeing meant coming under the control of criminal authorities. "I need to think about it," he said. "Think fast. I want an answer tomorrow." That evening, Terrence told Marcus about the conversation. Marcus frowned. "They smell weakness in you. They think you're easy prey." "What should I do?" "Turn them down, but be careful. Tell them you don't want to extend your sentence." "What if they don't accept my refusal?" Marcus looked at him seriously. "Then they'll use force, but I won't let them touch you." "Marcus, don't. We're a team, Terrence. I won't abandon you." The next day, Terrence refused Snake's offer. Snake listened calmly, but a threat flashed in his eyes. Bad decision, Four Eyes. A very bad one. 2 days later, as Terrence was returning from the library, he was attacked by 3 inmates in an empty hallway. They knocked him to the floor and began beating him. Terrence tried to defend himself, but he was too weak against 3. Suddenly, the attackers flew to the side. Marcus appeared like a hurricane, his fists working with the precision and power of a professional fighter. Within a minute, all 3 were lying on the floor, and Marcus was helping Terrence to his feet. "Are you alive?" he asked, examining the bruises on his friend's face. "Yes, thank you." "Let's go to the infirmary. We need to clean your wounds." Dr. Helen Harris, the prison psychologist who sometimes filled in for the nurse, examined Terrence. She was a woman of about 45, with kind eyes and a professional reserve. "What happened?" she asked as she treated his abrasions. "I fell down the stairs," Terrence lied. Dr. Harris looked at him skeptically but didn't press the issue. "If you need to talk, my door is always open." That night, Terrence lay on his bunk, feeling the pain from the blows, but his heart was warm. Marcus had risked his own safety to protect him. No one had ever done anything like that for him before. "Marcus," he called softly. "Yes? Why did you do that? Now you're going to have trouble with Iron Jack." "Because you're worth it," Marcus replied simply. Terrence felt his heart tighten with unexpected emotion. No one has ever protected me like that. Not even Wendy? Terrence thought for a moment. Wendy loves me, but differently. She's never seen me this vulnerable. I've always been her rock, her protector. Here you can just be yourself. Yes, it's strange, but yes. Marcus climbed down from the top bunk and sat on the edge of the bottom bunk next to Terrence. In the dim light of the cell, Terrence could see his profile, the strong arms that had just protected him. "Terrence," Marcus said quietly, "what's happening between us isn't just friendship." Terrence's heart beat faster. "I know. So what are we going to do about it?" Terrence looked into Marcus's eyes and saw the same confusion he felt himself. Slowly, uncertainly, he reached out and touched Marcus's face. "I don't know," he whispered. "I'm married. I've never been with a man." "I don't understand what's happening either," Marcus said, covering Terrence's hand with his own. "But I know I don't want this to end." They sat there for a long time, holding hands in the darkness, each trying to understand these new feelings. Finally, Marcus leaned in cautiously and kissed Terrence. The kiss was gentle, questioning. Terrence kissed him back, and the whole world outside the cell walls ceased to exist. There was no prison, no Wendy, no past, and no future. Only this moment, this closeness, this realization that he had finally found something he never even knew he wanted. When they broke the kiss, Terrence felt both happy and scared. "What now?" he asked. "Now we're careful," Marcus replied. "Very careful." The next few days passed in an atmosphere of secret happiness and constant fear. They learned to communicate with their eyes, to understand each other without words. Stolen touches, whispers in the dark, rare kisses when they were sure no one could see them. Terrence discovered a side of himself he never knew existed. With Marcus, he could be vulnerable, real, not playing the role of the perfect husband or successful accountant. Marcus accepted him for who he was, with all his fears and weaknesses. But this new closeness brought new problems. Terrence began receiving letters from Wendy, full of love and hope for the future. She wrote about how much she missed him and how she was planning their life after his release. Each letter was like a knife in his heart. "She wants to come visit," he told Marcus, holding another letter in his hands. What are you going to tell her? I don't know. How can I look her in the eye knowing that... He didn't finish his sentence. That you're in love with someone else? Terrence nodded, unable to say it out loud. Terrence, you don't have to decide right now. We can just live in the present. But Terrence knew that sooner or later, he would have to make a choice. The security and predictability of life with Wendy, or the uncertainty and danger of this new love. 2 months had passed since their first kiss, and the relationship between Terrence and Marcus had become deeper and more complicated. They had learned to be careful, developing a whole system of signals and secret meetings. The library became their refuge. There they could sit next to each other, pretending to read and talk quietly for hours. Terrence had never experienced anything like this before. With Wendy, their relationship had followed the traditional script. Meeting, dating, marriage. Everything was predictable and safe. With Marcus, every day brought new discoveries. Every conversation was an exploration of another person's soul. You know what I'm thinking? Marcus asked, as they sat in the far corner of the library pretending to study law books. What? That if we had met outside, in normal life, we would never have become a couple. Terrence looked at him in surprise. Why? Think about it. You're an educated, middle-class accountant, married, with established views. I'm a construction worker with a criminal record who solves problems with his fists. We're from different worlds. But here we're equal. Exactly. Here we're just 2 prisoners who need each other. But what will happen when this is all over? This question haunted Terrence more and more, especially after he received a letter from Wendy with the date of their next visit. Dear Terrence, she wrote, I miss you so much. Every day feels like an eternity without your embrace. The school principal has allowed me to take time off to visit you next weekend. I can't wait to see your face. I've prepared a surprise for you. Photos of our house. I repainted the bedroom the blue color you liked so much. Everything is ready for your return. I love you with all my heart. Yours, Wendy. Terrence reread the letter several times, and each time his heart ached. Wendy had tried so hard to save their marriage, planning their future together, and he had fallen in love with someone else. What's wrong? Marcus asked in the evening, noticing that Terrence was quiet and pensive. Wendy is coming on Saturday. Marcus froze mid-sentence. I see. I don't know how I can look her in the eye. How can I pretend that nothing has changed? What has changed? Marcus's voice betrayed a hint of tension. Terrence, you know. Know what? That you love me? Or that you're just killing time in prison? Terrence turned to him, surprised by the sharpness of his tone. How can you say that? Because I see how you panic every time a letter from your wife arrives. Because you never talk about what will happen after you're released. I can't think about the future. I don't even understand the present. Then let me make it clear. I'm in love with you, Terrence. Not the idea of a relationship, not a way to pass the time. I'm in love with you. And if this is just a prison romance for you, no! Terrence grabbed Marcus's arm. That's not true. You're the most important thing that's ever happened to me. But Wendy and I have been together for 8 years. I can't just forget about her. Marcus pulled his hand away. I'm not asking you to forget her. I'm asking you to choose. Give me time. Time? Terrence, I have 4 years left to serve. You have 3. How much more time do we need? This argument was the first crack in their relationship. Over the next few days, they were polite but cold toward each other. Terrence felt torn between 2 worlds, 2 versions of himself. Saturday came faster than he wanted it to. Wendy arrived at the prison early in the morning, and when Terrence saw her in the visiting room, his heart skipped a beat. She was as beautiful as the day they met. Blonde hair, kind eyes, a smile that could light up any room. Terrence! She rushed toward him, and he embraced her, inhaling the familiar scent of her perfume. Wendy, I missed you so much. They sat down at a plastic table, holding hands. Wendy talked about work, friends, and how she was redecorating her house. Terrence listened and tried to slip back into his old role as a loving husband, but something inside him resisted. You look different, Wendy said, studying his face closely. Different? Stronger, more confident. And Tanner, have you been working outside? Sometimes, in the colony garden. That's good. Physical work is healthy. Do you have any friends? Terrence felt his throat tighten. Yes, my cellmate, Marcus. He's helping me adjust. Tell me about him. What can I say? He's a regular guy, in for fighting. Wendy nodded, but Terrence noticed that she was watching his reaction closely. His wife had always been perceptive, one of the qualities he loved about her. Terrence, something's wrong with you. You seem distant. It's prison, Wendy. It's hard to be the same here. But you'll come back to me, won't you? You still want our future? Terrence looked into her eyes, full of hope and love, and felt something break inside him. Of course, I love you. The words sounded true because he did love her, but it was a different kind of love, calm, familiar, based on years of living together, not the fiery, barrier-breaking passion he felt for Marcus. After the date, Terrence returned to his cell feeling empty. Marcus was sitting on his bunk reading a book, but Terrence could see that he wasn't turning the pages. How did it go? Marcus asked without looking up. Fine. Is she pretty? Marcus. Just answer the question. Yes, she's pretty. Marcus finally looked at him. And you realized you want to go back to her. I realized that it's very complicated. It's simple for me. I love you. You love me. The rest is details. Details? Wendy isn't a detail. She's my wife, my life before this place. Your past life. Or do you want it to be your real life again? Terrence didn't answer, and that answer spoke louder than any words. In the days that followed, the tension between them grew. They still lived in the same cell, but it was as if a wall had grown between them. Marcus became more withdrawn, spending time with other inmates, while Terrence immersed himself in work and reading. Dr. Harris noticed changes in both of their behavior during their scheduled psychological interviews. Terrence, you seem troubled, she said during their weekly meeting. Has something happened? Just adjusting. It's been 3 months now. Usually by now, inmates find their rhythm. You seem to be back at square one. Terrence shrugged. Maybe seeing my wife turned everything upside down. How so? It reminded me of what's waiting for me on the outside, that it's all temporary. Dr. Harris looked at him intently. Terrence, if you're having problems with any of the inmates, you can talk to me. I'm here to help. No problems. Just rethinking my priorities. After his meeting with the psychologist, Terrence realized that his relationship with Marcus was becoming too obvious. Dr. Harris was a perceptive woman, and if she suspected anything that evening, he tried to talk to Marcus. We need to be more careful. The psychologist suspects something. What could she suspect? Marcus asked coldly. You know what? I know, but maybe it's time to stop hiding. Are you crazy? If they find out about our relationship, they'll separate us. They'll transfer us to different blocks or even different prisons. So what? You plan to go back to your wife anyway? I don't plan to. I'm just confused. Then make up your mind. I'm tired of this uncertainty. Terrence felt his irritation rising. Don't rush me. It's not that simple. It was easy for me. I saw you and knew I wanted to be with you, despite all the risks. You don't understand. You don't have a wife waiting for you. You don't have a past to destroy. I have a future I want to build, with you. Marcus's words sounded like an ultimatum. Terrence realized he couldn't put off his decision any longer. The following week, an incident occurred that changed everything. Terrence was working in the library, arranging books on the shelves, when Snake approached him, accompanied by 2 thugs. 4 eyes, he said, blocking his way. It's time we talked. About what? About how you're going to repay us for leaving you alone after that incident. Terrence realized that Iron Jack's gang had decided to get revenge. After the fight, when Marcus had defended him, they had temporarily backed off, but now they were back for what they were owed. I don't owe anyone anything. You do. We could have seriously hurt you back then, but we showed mercy, and mercy comes at a price. How much? $1,000 in your account. Or what? Zmay grinned. Or you'll work for us. Your buddy Marcus won't always be able to protect you. Terrence knew it was a trap. If he paid, the demands would grow. If he agreed to work for them, he would become part of their criminal organization. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow. That evening, Terrence told Marcus about the conversation. Marcus listened silently, but Terrence could see his muscles tense. "They're crossing the line," Marcus said. "What should I do?" "Nothing. I'll talk to them myself." "No. That will only make things worse." "Terrence, they won't leave you alone. The only thing that stops people like that is force." "What if we go to the administration?" Marcus looked at him in surprise. "Snitching? Are you serious?" "It's not snitching, it's protection. It's the same thing here. If you go to the administration, you'll be an outcast to all the inmates. That's worse than having problems with Iron Jack." Terrence felt the walls closing in around him. Every way he turned, it was a dead end. "I don't want you to risk yourself for me," he said. "And I don't want you to be used. Maybe you should agree. Work for them for a while. And then what? Terrence, you don't understand how this works. If you agree once, you become their property. They'll demand more and more until they destroy you completely. Then what do you suggest?" Marcus was silent for a long time, staring out the window. "I suggest showing them that you're not alone, that you have protection." "And how will you do that?" "Leave that to me." The next day, Terrence watched in horror as Marcus approached Iron Jack's table in the dining hall. The conversation was short but tense. Terrence saw Marcus say something, and Iron Jack's face darkened with anger. When Marcus returned, Terrence asked, "What did you tell them?" "That you're under my protection, and that if they touch you, they'll have to deal with me." "Marcus, this is crazy. You've turned yourself against a whole gang. I protected the one I love." Marcus's words sounded like a sentence. Terrence realized that their relationship was now public knowledge throughout the prison. Everyone had seen Marcus defend him, putting his own safety at risk. But instead of feeling grateful, Terrence felt panic. His secret was out. His safety was gone. Everything he feared was becoming a reality. "You ruined everything," he said to Marcus that evening. "I saved you. You put a target on my back. Now everyone will know there's something between us." "What's wrong with that?" "What's wrong with that? Marcus, people get killed for less here. And you've told the whole prison that we're what? Say it out loud." "That we're lovers." The words hung in the air between them. Terrence had never said it out loud before, and it made it even scarier. "You finally admitted it," Marcus said quietly. "I admitted what will destroy us. Or set us free." "Set us free?" "Marcus, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready to be openly gay in prison. I'm not ready to destroy my marriage. I'm not ready for any of this." Marcus looked at him for a long time. "Then what are you willing to do?" "I don't know. You do. You're just afraid to say it." Terrence turned away, unable to look Marcus in the eye. Deep down, he knew Marcus was right. He knew what choice he wanted to make. But his fear was stronger than his love. "I need time," he repeated. "There's no time, Terrence. After what happened today, we can't pretend nothing happened. We can't go back to the way things were." That night was a turning point in their relationship. Terrence lay on the top bunk, listening to Marcus's breathing below, and realized that their story was coming to a head. He had to choose, the security of the past or the uncertainty of the future, the stability of his marriage to Wendy or his dangerous love for Marcus. 2 weeks passed in an atmosphere of growing tension. After Marcus's confrontation with Iron Jack's gang, the entire prison seemed to freeze in anticipation. Terrence felt the eyes of the other inmates on him, curious, judgmental, sometimes openly hostile. Some looked at him with understanding, but most saw weakness that could be exploited. Guard Tommy Washington also noticed the change in the block's dynamics. He watched Terrence and Marcus with growing interest, like a predator sensing an opportunity to prey. "Collins," he called to Terrence as he returned from the laundry room. "How are things with your new friends?" "I don't know what you're talking about." Washington smirked. "Of course you don't. Just remember, I see everything. I hear everything. And if anything interesting happens in my block, I need to know about it." The threat was veiled but clear. Terrence realized that their secret was no longer a secret. Marcus, meanwhile, was becoming increasingly gloomy and withdrawn. He still defended Terrence, but a wall of unspoken words had grown between them. Their conversations became short and formal. and the rare moments of closeness that still occurred were tinged with despair. "You regret what happened," Marcus said one evening as they lay in their bunks. "I regret a lot of things, including me." Terrence was silent for a long time. "I don't regret you. I regret that we can't just be normal." "Normal?" Marcus sat up in bed. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm tired of hiding, tired of being afraid of every look, every word, tired of thinking about what tomorrow will bring." "Then stop hiding." "Easy for you to say." "Terrence, look at me." Marcus climbed down from the top bunk and sat down next to him. "I know you're afraid, but we can get through this, together." Terrence looked into Marcus's eyes and saw so much pain that his heart ached. "What if we can't? Then at least we'll have tried." But Terrence had already made up his mind, though he wasn't ready to say it out loud. The voice of reason was growing louder in his head, telling him that what was happening was madness. A temporary derangement caused by the stress of imprisonment. That real life was waiting for him outside, with Wendy, in their house with the blue bedroom. The decisive moment came a week later, when Terrence received another letter from his wife. Wendy wrote that she had filed for early release for her husband for good behavior. Their lawyer believed there was a chance to reduce his sentence by a year. "Imagine, dear," she wrote, "you could be home in 2 years instead of 3. We could start all over again, have the children we've always wanted. I believe so much in our future." Terrence reread the letter several times, and with each reading, the voice of reason grew louder. Wendy was offering him a chance at a normal life, a home, a family, stability. And what was Marcus offering? 4 years of imprisonment together, followed by uncertainty. That evening he asked Marcus to accompany him to the library. "We need to talk," he said, when they found themselves in an empty corner between the shelves. "About what?" Terrence took a deep breath. "About us, about what's going on between us." Marcus tensed. "And what do you want to say?" I think we should stop." The words hung in the air like a sentence. Marcus looked at Terrence as if he didn't understand what he had heard. "Stop? End our relationship. Go back to how it was in the beginning. Just cellmates." "Why?" Terrence turned away, unable to look Marcus in the eye. "Because it's wrong. Because it's destroying my life." "Your life? Don't you care about mine?" "I do. That's why I'm saying this. We've gone too far. If we keep going, we'll destroy ourselves completely." Marcus grabbed his shoulder, forcing him to turn around. "Terrence, look at me. Are you saying this out of fear or conviction?" "What's the difference?" "A huge difference. If it's fear, we can deal with it. If it's conviction, it's conviction." Terrence forced himself to meet Marcus's gaze. "I'm married, Marcus. I have a wife who loves me and is waiting for me. And I have a chance to cut my sentence short and get back to a normal life." "A normal life?" Marcus's voice grew cold. "So a life with me isn't normal?" "No, that's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant. To you, I've always been an experiment, a way to pass the time in prison." "That's not true." "Then why are you giving up on me so easily?" Terrence felt something break inside him. "Because we have no future. Because we live in a fantasy world and reality is completely different. Reality is what we feel for each other." "No, Marcus. Reality is what awaits us outside. You'll go back to your life, and I'll go back to mine, and it will all seem like a bad dream." Marcus took a step back, as if he had been physically struck. "A bad dream? You call the happiest months of my life a bad dream?" "I didn't mean to." "You did. That's exactly what you meant." Marcus's eyes darkened with anger. "You used me. You took what you wanted, and now you're throwing me away like a piece of trash." "I didn't use you. I was sincere." "Sincere? If you were sincere, you wouldn't be planning to sneak back to your wife." Terrence realized he had gone too far to back down. "Wendy is my wife. I made a vow to her, and I intend to keep it." "And you didn't promise me anything?" "We never talked about vows. We talked about love." Marcus raised his voice, and Terrence looked around fearfully to see if anyone could hear them. "Quiet! Someone might hear us." "So what? You're going to end it anyway." "Marcus, please understand. I don't want to hurt you, but what we have can't continue." "Why? Give me one real reason, other than your fear." Terrence searched for words that wouldn't sound like betrayal, but couldn't find them. Because I'm not gay, Marcus. What happened between us is an anomaly. It's the result of isolation, stress, loneliness. Under normal circumstances, this would never have happened. If Marcus had looked hurt before, now his face was contorted with rage. An anomaly? You call what we feel an anomaly? I call it what it is, a temporary aberration. Marcus grabbed him by the lapels and pinned him against the bookshelf. A temporary disturbance? When you kissed me, was that a disturbance? When you said you loved me? Let me go. Answer the question. Yes, Terrence shouted. Yes, it was a disturbance. I don't know what came over me, but now I've come to my senses. Marcus let go of him so abruptly that Terrence almost fell over. They stared at each other in silence for a few seconds. Then Marcus said quietly, "So you regret what happened between us?" "I regret letting it go this far. And you're going to go back to your perfect wife and pretend nothing happened?" "Yes. And me? You'll find someone else. Someone who really..." Terrence didn't get to finish. The blow hit him in the jaw with such force that he fell to the floor between the shelves. Marcus stood over him, breathing heavily, his fists clenched. "Don't you dare!" he hissed. "Don't you dare tell me I'll find someone else. Don't you dare pretend it's easy to replace what we had." Terrence tried to get up, but Marcus pushed him back down. "You think it's that easy? Switching from one person to another like a radio station?" "Marcus, stop." "No, I won't stop. You ruined my life, Terrence. I let you into my heart, opened up to you like I've never opened up to anyone else. And you?" Marcus's voice trembled with emotion. Terrence could see that his friend, no, his former lover, was on the verge of breaking down. "You used me," Marcus continued. "You took my protection, my love, my care, and when you got tired of it, you decided to throw me away like trash." "That's not true." "Yes, it is. You're a selfish bastard who only thinks about yourself." Terrence felt anger flare up inside him too. "What did you think? That we'd live happily ever after in a prison cell? That I'd ruin my marriage for a prison romance?" "Prison romance?" Marcus turned pale with rage. "Yes, that's exactly what it was. That's all it was. A prison romance. Entertainment for the duration of my sentence." Terrence didn't see the next blow coming. Marcus punched him in the stomach, and he doubled over, gasping for air. "Entertainment?" Marcus grabbed him by the hair, forcing him to lift his head. "Was I entertaining you when I protected you from Snake? When I risked my life for your safety?" "I didn't ask you to do that!" "You didn't? What about when you cried on my shoulder after your first date with your wife? When you said I was the only one who understood you?" Terrence tried to break free, but Marcus was stronger. "Let me go. This is madness." "Madness? You want to see real madness?" Marcus dragged him deeper between the shelves, where no one would see or hear them. Terrence realized he had made a mistake. He had gone too far, said too many hurtful words. "Marcus, please, let's talk calmly." "Talk? About what? About how you planned to leave me? About how you rehearsed it in your head? I didn't plan it. It was a difficult decision for me." "Hard?" Marcus laughed, but it was a bitter, frightening laugh. "It was hard for you to decide whether to dump me or not." Terrence saw something in Marcus's eyes that made him truly afraid. It wasn't just anger. It was the despair of a man who realized he had lost everything that was important to him. "You know what hurts the most?" Marcus said quietly, pressing Terrence against the bookshelf. "It's not that you're leaving me. It's that you're pretending that what we had never existed. That's not true." "Right. You're already rewriting history in your head. You're turning our love into a temporary infatuation. A year from now, you'll be telling your wife how you suffered in prison, and you won't mention me." Marcus's words hit home because that was exactly what Terrence was thinking. How to explain his change to Wendy without mentioning the real reason? "I won't forget you," he said weakly. "You will. You're already forgetting. You're already turning me into a ghost." Marcus let him go and took a step back. Terrence thought the worst was over, but he was wrong. "You know what I'm going to do?" Marcus asked, his voice tinged with madness. "I'm going to write to your wife. I'll tell her the truth about what her perfect husband became in prison." Terrence's heart skipped a beat. "You wouldn't dare." "I would. I'll tell her how you begged me for intimacy, how you cried with happiness in my arms, how you said you'd never been so happy." "Marcus, no." Why not? You said yourself it didn't matter. A prison fling, entertainment. So why shouldn't your wife know what her husband did for fun? Terrence realized that Marcus was capable of doing this. His eyes showed the desperation of a man with nothing to lose. If you do that, you'll ruin not only my life, but hers too. You ruined mine. Wendy didn't do anything wrong. And I didn't do anything wrong. But you're still ruining my life. They stood in the narrow aisle between the shelves, breathing heavily with emotion. Terrence realized he had cornered Marcus, and now he was ready for anything. Okay, he said, trying to sound calm. What do you want? What do I want? Marcus laughed. I want you to stop lying. To yourself and to me. I'm not lying. You are. You say you don't love me, but your eyes say otherwise. My feelings for you don't matter. They do. They're the only thing that matters. Marcus grabbed his face, forcing him to look into his eyes. Tell me you don't love me. Look me in the eyes and say it. Terrence tried to turn away, but Marcus held him tight. Say it! Terrence faltered. He couldn't say the words while looking into the eyes of the man he truly loved. You can't? Marcus asked quietly. You can't say you don't love me? Love isn't always enough, Terrence whispered. It's enough for me. Not for me. Those words were the last straw. Something in Marcus's eyes finally broke. Terrence saw the pain turn to rage, and the rage turned to cold determination. Then we have nothing more to talk about, Marcus said. He turned as if to leave, but then spun back around. Terrence saw the book in his hands, a heavy encyclopedia, but realized what was happening too late. The blow struck him in the temple with such force that the world exploded in white light. Terrence fell, feeling blood flowing from his head. He tried to get up, but Marcus struck again. Marcus, stop! He croaked, but received another blow in response. Marcus stood over him, breathing heavily, the book in his hands covered in blood. In his eyes, Terrence no longer saw the man he loved, only the madness of despair. You wanted to forget me? Marcus asked hoarsely. Make our relationship a bad dream? Then sleep. Sleep forever. The last thing Terrence saw was Marcus's face, contorted with pain and rage. The last thing he thought was that everything could have been different if he had been braver, if he had chosen love instead of fear. But it was too late for regrets. Marcus sat on the library floor next to Terrence's body, unable to believe what had happened. The blood on the book, his friend's motionless body, the silence between the bookshelves, it all seemed like a nightmare from which he couldn't wake up. Several minutes passed before his instinct for self-preservation overcame his shock. Marcus realized he had to act quickly. The library was closing in half an hour, and the security guard would be coming to check soon. He got up carefully, trying not to step in the pool of blood. His brain frantically searched for ways to hide the crime, but all options seemed hopeless. Surveillance cameras had recorded them entering the library together. Fingerprints were on the murder weapon. Half the prison could guess the motive. What have I done? He whispered, staring at Terrence's motionless face. Suddenly, the library door creaked. Marcus froze, listening to the sound of footsteps. Someone was walking between the shelves, checking the room. There was no time to think. He quickly wiped the book on his uniform, leaving it next to the body, and slipped out through the service exit that led to the utility corridor. His heart was pounding, his hands were shaking, but he forced himself to walk calmly, as usual. In his cell, Marcus collapsed onto his bunk and closed his eyes, trying to collect his thoughts. He had killed a man. He had killed the man he loved more than life itself, and no excuses could change that fact. An hour later, rumors spread throughout the prison that a prisoner's body had been found in the library. Block C was locked down, and an emergency investigation began. Marcus lay on his bunk, pretending to be asleep, listening to the excited voices in the corridor. They say Collins was found dead, one of the inmates told his cellmate. The guy with glasses? How did it happen? I don't know. The guards aren't saying anything. Dr. Helen Harris was one of the first to arrive at the scene. She stood at the entrance to the library, watching investigators photograph the crime scene. Terrence's body lay between the bookshelves, a bloody encyclopedia lying nearby. Judging by the nature of the injuries, this was murder, said the prison doctor, examining the body. Multiple blows to the head with a blunt object. The prison warden, a stern man named Warren Black, nodded grimly. Any witnesses? Not yet. The library was almost empty. Collins was last seen around 6 o'clock. Who was he with? The guard checked the visitor log. Marcus Reed. They came in together, but Reed left earlier. Black and Dr. Harris exchanged glances. They both knew about the close relationship between the two inmates, though they had never interfered. "Where is Reed now?" asked the warden. "In his cell. He says he slept all night." The next morning, Marcus was called in for questioning. He walked down the hallway, knowing that this was the beginning of the end. Waiting for him in the interrogation room were the warden, a local police detective, and Dr. Harris. "Marcus," began Detective Johnson, an elderly man with tired eyes, "tell us about last night." "What is there to tell? I had dinner, read, went to bed." "What about Terrence Collins? You were with him in the library." "Yes, but I left before he did." "Why?" Marcus shrugged. "I was tired. I wanted to rest." "How long were you in the library?" 20 minutes, maybe half an hour." "What did you talk about?" "Nothing special. Books, the weather." The detective looked closely at Marcus, studying his reactions. "Marcus, we know you and Collins had a special relationship." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb," the warden interjected. "Half the block knew about your relationship." Marcus remained silent, staring at the table. "Did you have any problems with Terrence?" the detective continued. "No." "No arguments? No conflicts?" "No." Dr. Harris leaned forward. "Marcus, I saw how you two changed in the last few weeks. Terrence seemed troubled, and you seemed angry. What was going on?" Marcus looked up at her. A flash of pain crossed his face, but he quickly hid it. Nothing was going on. The interrogation lasted 2 hours, but Marcus stubbornly denied any involvement in the murder. The investigators had no direct evidence. No cameras had captured the moment of the crime, and there were no witnesses. Meanwhile, in a small house in Montrose, Wendy Collins received the most terrifying phone call of her life. "Mrs. Collins? This is the warden of Montrose Correctional Facility. I have some very difficult news for you." Wendy collapsed into a kitchen chair, the phone slipping from her trembling hands. Terrence was dead. Her husband, her only love, the man for whom she had planned her future every day, had been killed in the prison library. A few days later, she arrived at the prison to collect her husband's personal belongings. Dr. Harris met her in her office. "I'm so sorry for your loss," said the psychologist, pouring tea. "Terrence was a good man." "Who killed him?" asked Wendy in a trembling voice. "I have a right to know." "The investigation is ongoing, but there is a suspect." "Who?" Dr. Harris hesitated. "His cellmate, Marcus Reed." "Why? What for?" "We don't know the motive yet. It may be related to debt or territory." Wendy shook her head. "Terrence wrote to me about him. He said Marcus was protecting him, helping him adjust. Why would he kill Terrence?" Dr. Harris didn't answer. She knew the truth, but she couldn't tell the grief-stricken widow that her husband was gay and had been in a romantic relationship with the killer. A week later, forensic tests confirmed that Marcus's fingerprints were on the murder weapon. He was arrested and transferred to a solitary cell to await trial. "Marcus Reed," said his lawyer, a young man appointed by the state, "the evidence against you is very serious. The fingerprints on the book, the motive, the opportunity. If you plead guilty, I can negotiate a life sentence instead of the death penalty." Marcus sat in his new cell, 4 concrete walls, a cot, a toilet. No windows, no books, only silence and memories of Terrence. "I don't admit guilt," he said. "Marcus, be reasonable. There's almost no chance you'll be acquitted." "I said I don't admit guilt," the lawyer sighed. "Then prepare for a long trial." The trial began 3 months later. Wendy sat in the front row, dressed in black, holding a photo of Terrence. She studied the face of her husband's killer, trying to understand what could have driven this man to commit such a crime. The prosecutor presented evidence: fingerprints, witness testimony about conflicts between the defendant and the victim, and a psychological profile of Marcus as a man prone to violence. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," said the prosecutor, Before you stands a cold-blooded murderer who took the life of an innocent man over a trivial argument. The defense attorney tried to present the case as a result of the prison environment, where any conflict could lead to tragedy. But he had no compelling arguments. The key moment came with the testimony of Dr. Harris. She described changes she had observed in the behavior of both inmates in the weeks leading up to the murder. Terrence Collins seemed troubled and depressed. Marcus Reed showed signs of aggression and jealousy. Jealousy? The prosecutor asked. Towards whom? Dr. Harris glanced at Wendy, then at Marcus. Towards Mr. Collins's wife. Reed reacted painfully to her letters and visits. That was enough for the jury to understand the motive. Jealousy over a woman is an understandable and convincing motive for murder. Marcus listened to the testimony, knowing that no one was interested in the truth. No one wanted to hear about forbidden love, about how he had killed Terrence not out of jealousy for his wife, but out of the pain of betrayal. When he was called to testify, he stood up and looked at Wendy. She was sitting there clutching a photograph of her husband, and in her eyes he saw the same pain he felt himself. "I'm guilty," he said, surprising everyone. The courtroom fell silent. "Mr. Reed," the judge addressed him, "do you understand what you're saying?" "Yes, I killed Terrence Collins." The lawyer jumped to his feet. "Your Honor, my client is not in a fit state to—" "I am perfectly sane," Marcus interrupted. "I killed him, and I am prepared to accept the punishment." Wendy looked at him through her tears. "Why?" she whispered. "Why did you kill him?" Marcus turned to her. He could have told her the truth. He could have told her about their love, about how Terrence had broken his heart. But that would only have caused this woman more pain. "Because I'm a monster," he said simply. The court sentenced Marcus Reed to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was transferred to a maximum security prison, where he spent 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. Wendy returned to Montrose and tried to start her life over. She continued to work at the school, but her colleagues noticed how the once cheerful woman had changed. She became withdrawn, rarely smiled, and avoided talking about her personal life. Sometimes she reread Terrence's letters from prison, trying to find signs of what was to come, but he wrote only of love, of plans for the future, of how much he missed home. A year after the trial, Wendy received a letter from Marcus. She held the envelope in her hands for a long time, not daring to open it. Finally, curiosity overcame her fear. "Dear Mrs. Collins," he wrote, "I know I have no right to write to you, but I cannot remain silent. Your husband was a good man, the best I ever knew. He loved you more than life itself and dreamed of coming home. I deprived him of that opportunity, and I will regret it for the rest of my life. Forgive me if you can. Marcus." Wendy burned the letter, but she remembered the words. They brought no comfort, but they gave her an understanding that the murderer was also suffering. It was a strange, bitter justice. Marcus spent the rest of his life alone, with the ghost of Terrence as his only companion. He understood that he had received the punishment he deserved, not death, but years of memories of what he had lost forever.